AL want to go for early in the draft. Maybe they end up B1ing it. If Talia's on the board, I would expect that to maybe be the B1 instead. But I think jungle is going to determine quite a lot for the identity of AL because of just how much we highlighted what Tarzan means to this team.
You see the Azir banned away from Shanks, one of his most signature picks as well. It's going to be a rumble, potentially locked in. Very high priority pick still in the current state of the meta. We'll see what TES want to respond with. You know, 369 always comfortable going towards something like the Galio, but maybe wants to play something that has a little bit more steel expression here, and giving Top Esports the opportunity to pick something else that has a little bit more juice.
Yeah, they are going to lock in the Annie here. I imagine Annie Wukong makes a lot of sense. Kanavi, great at Wukong. Creme has played Annie a lot this split. It's not always looked good from him. There have been, you know, good games and bad games in their wins as well, where, you know, I think notoriously at the end of last week against BLG, winning that game 2 on Annie down, like, you know, 100 CS tonight or something of the sort. So certainly something to at least keep in mind, but it is a great setup lane for Top Esports, pretty easy to execute. For AL, they're just going for a lot of the power picks. They don't want to change up their strategy too much. These are the kinds of things that really worked for them at the beginning of the year. Things like Xin Zhao that have maybe not been quite as popular over the course of the summer split, still very much prioritized. And with Talia still up on the board, I honestly would be shocked if that's just not the insta-lock here.
Ooh, so a little bit of killing two birds with one stone here. With Shanks locking in the Galio, you prevent 369 from having even the opportunity to lock that one in, as well as giving yourself a very powerful mid-jungle 2v2. Big opportunities now for Tarzan to put some of those carry pants on, as we see TES scrolling through a couple of different champions. I feel like we talk about, you know, JackeyLove and Kanavi. 369 also been such a consistent performer on this Top Esports roster, specifically on some of these primary engagers. Going to have a really good time doing that on the Ornn to wrap up our first phase.
Yeah, 369 has been really great over the past couple of weeks. I think it's almost going under the radar just how important he's been towards this team's success. In their wins, he has really stepped up and started to dominate some late games. So getting him on something like the Ornn that can combo well off of these gigantic ultimates that you're setting up for Top Esports really makes a lot of sense. You've got the Ornn Horn, you've got the Wukong Cyclone, you've got the Annie Tibbers being dropped. You have so many different ways to start fights. I expect a true carry on the bot side for JackeyLove, and this could be the perfect setup for a player that has really come through a lot already so far this year.
Head into the second ban phase. Bot lane is going to be the focus. Of course, still a lot of priority 80 carries available. You know, with the Yunara and the Varus taken off the board, maybe your options a little bit more limited, but Hope and JackeyLove definitely have the pools to go for either the aggressive things like we see in JackeyLove whip out a Kalista earlier on here in the season, or of course maybe something more on the passive end. Very curious to see what these supports do as well. Talk about Hong being this new addition to the team, but Kael, maybe one of the top performing supports all year long here in the LPL.
I think it's more than fair to say in the LPL, I think Kael has been one of the best performing supports in the world so far this year. He really has come into his own as a playmaker, and at times has been the best player on this team. And, you know, he's going to get the chance to prove that in this series, as it is going to be the Kaisa locked in for JackeyLove. You know, I talked about how much dive and how many ultimates this team had to combo off of. All you needed was follow-up. Boy, Kaisa's pretty good follow-up for a lot of that setup that you have available to you. This would make a lot of sense for Top Esports to kind of force something a bit more passive coming out of AL to try and contest that Kaisa. But overall, love the draft from Top Esports so far. I think it sets themselves up for a pretty decent execution.
We'll see what it gets rounded out by, but yeah, just so many options for the Killer Instinct to be followed up with for JackeyLove, with the setup so nicely set up, you know, created on the top side of the map for them already. Gonna be Recon for Kael. We'll see what Hope wants to play into the Kaisa specifically. Maybe something that can punish him a little bit more in the early stages of things with a Lucian. Lucian Recon, not necessarily a bot lane that many people are super familiar with, and with that being said, gonna opt towards the Senna instead for Hope.
Yeah, this makes more sense to me. I was a little bit confused by the Lucian pick. I don't think that would quite work out here with the comp that they had constructed, I guess, kind of surrounding their core. But really, the only thing for Top Esports that's missing is a bit more, like, peel coming in for the Kaisa if things were to go wrong. The Alistair really fixes a lot of the problems with this comp. And honestly, I'm looking at a draft that I really like for Top Esports. I think AL is still in a good spot, and they scale really well into the late game, which I think is a very encouraging trait. And I think they are looking at some winning lanes. Galio should be very good into Annie, especially in terms of roaming, and the Rumble should be fine early on the top side. But if you can get this Kaisa going, I think the damage in the late game might be a little bit too much for AL to bear. So it's all really about how you play around that Xin Zhao.
Tarzan, of course, going to be the primary focus for his team in the early game, like he always is. When he does well, his team does well. And right now, Tarzan's been doing pretty well for these past couple of series. That's why he's been named the LPL Player of the Week for week number 5. Not a ton of side laning potential, really, for either of these teams, which means, of course, team fights will be the focus, which we always love to see. I think Tarzan and Shanks going to have a lot of high agency here in this mid-jungle 2v2 going up against the Annie Wukong. It's going to be a fun matchup here, Kamen. I'm really excited for this best-of-3 series.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just excited to see these two teams go head-to-head. Both comps have a ton of engage tools. They have plenty of ways to scale into the late game. Neither one of these teams should be out by the first couple of minutes, at least hopefully. So I'm excited to see something that's going to be really fun here in game number 1, and hopefully both of these teams bring their A game.
Again, the Split 2 champions against the Split 1 champions. I mean, it doesn't really get much better than that, as AL, despite their early struggles coming back from MSI, really have come back into form and looked like one of the best teams that we have here in the LPL. They'll have a true chance to prove it against a team that took them down a couple of weeks ago. It's game number 1 of Anyone's Legends in Top Esports, starting right now.
Here we go. I missed the Gyos from the first series. Glad we got them here for a gigantic matchup between these two teams, as we already see some vision being placed down. The traditional blue side ward being placed by Tarzan here is he's going to spot some vision onto Kanavi, but overall, I wouldn't really watch out for either of these teams to do anything crazy in the early levels. I'm not sure either of them have the full capabilities to do that before their level 6s hit.
See the early lane setups right now. Going to be Tarzan pathing down towards the bottom side, at least for the moment. Just take a look around the runes. Double spellbook, kind of the standard at this point. See some phase rush action for Shanks as well. Going to go into the melee versus range matchup. Keep himself as healthy and as safe as possible here in the early game. We saw a really good setup performance from Leave, giving us a nice base came in as to what to expect here for Hope this time around.
Yeah, and I think this is a pretty okay matchup for Senna. It's not going to be great the entirety of the game if they can get some dives off, but the range advantage is massive for this champion, and if you can really utilize that in lane, that can generate a pretty big lead for you. JackeyLove kind of needs to be careful of a lot of those aggressive plays that could be made by AL, especially if they want to bring the Xin Zhao down here. So, you know, we'll see what Hope can do. He's been a really big performer for AL throughout this series, certainly having a career year. Another game where he has the chance to show that off.
Yeah, I mean, remember, he was on JDG back in the day, made it all the way to international, but after that, you know, you get benched for Ruler. I feel like it's not necessarily like an indictment on you personally, it's just more like Ruler exists. But Hope has been waiting to get back to the international stage ever since then, and obviously made the most of it at MSI, going to try to do it again at Worlds. And having another test again against a new bot lane here in JackeyLove and Hong. So far, having at least a good start to this early game. We're going to be very safe as well with Tarzan pathing down bottom.
Yep, makes a lot of sense. Tarzan can actually do quite a bit down on the bottom side of the map here, so definitely makes a lot of sense for him to at least show in the area. At least for now, though, it's just going to be, I was going to say, safe.
Flash for Hong. It cancels the grand entrance, and so it forces a heal popped here by Kael. Should be alive, though. Nicely done, though, by the top esports support.
Yeah, very well played by Hong to cancel that knockup, as you said, coming in from Kael. Hong has been so improved on top esports. He really has not only made JackeyLove better, but I think he's made the team as a whole better. So really excited to see this bot lane 2v2 really come together for top esports as Tarzan makes his way down here. Could be running into the ADC.
Spots him out, but now on a ward 2, so TES very aware of what's going on. Want to avoid a situation where they are dove in and put far behind to start things off, so instead just going to make sure they back away, make sure Tarzan can take that Scuttle Crab as it will be traded on opposite sides of the map. And it's relatively quiet here to start this game off. But yeah, I mean, when you talk about Hong, this is a guy that got benched twice last split on Weibo. And now he's coming over and immediately making an impact on the first place team in the LPL. I mean, sometimes a change in scenery is all you need. and that surely is the case for somebody like Hong. I mean, we knew he had it in him to be, you know, a good player. Obviously, has had good moments across the board, like in, you know, over these past couple of years, multiple international, you know, showings. But it is odd. It was odd to see him get picked up for this team, but I'm glad to have been proven wrong at this point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hong was a player that I was talking about on, you know, multiple social media posts about being the most consistent support in the LPL before 2025. He really was in a sea of players that could have one great game, one terrible game. The one player I really counted on to just kind of be good game in and game out and to not really make a ton of mistakes. That was not the case for him on Weibo, but as we have learned pretty consistently with players like Crisp and On over the years, you know, Weibo's support position might just inherently breed some of that inconsistency. So glad to see him in a position where he can really start to flex his muscles again.
That's a great point you bring up. Maybe it's not the player, maybe it's just the organization. I mean, you know, I don't want to be dunking on Weibo right now in the matchup between AL and TS. There's going to be plenty of time to talk about them and their chances as we go throughout the rest of this regular season, but it does really feel like at this point, K-Man, I mean, as you mentioned during the pre-show, like, these are two teams at the top, and everybody else, like, you know, it's kind of separating themselves right now in the standings. And so this is a really good litmus test in this matchup between AL and TS to see, like, you know, where exactly anyone's Legends is, and will this run in the second round robin be legitimate, or, you know, can we fully put our trust back into Top Esports as a team that actually is going to be able to perform in the playoffs this time around?
You know, I hesitantly say that the version of Top Esports that we see right now is very, very strong. And I think that if that version of Top Esports can show up in these best of fives, in these playoff series, then they're not just going to be a threat to make waves in the playoffs and do better than they did in Split 2. They're going to be a real threat to actually win the league. And obviously, they're going to get the chance to prove that today. But they were the #1 seed for a reason. We have to remember, even going back to Split 2 midway through, AL's big roadblock was Top Esports at the beginning of the year. It felt like the team that they just could not overcome. And so, you know, the stories have kind of flipped at this point in terms of the form of these two teams, but you certainly can't count TES out at their best.
Question, will they be at their best? I mean, so far, pretty good start for them in this game, although there is a big overload on the bottom side of the map right now for anyone's Legend. They're sending a teleport in from Hong to make sure that 369 is able to farm up this juicy wave, although will maybe cost them one of these jungle camps down here as Kael has gone forward with the grand entrance onto Kanavi. They will not have a lot of follow-up damage just yet. Now Hong and 369 have arrived. Kael going way too far forward, and that's enough to secure first blood here for TES. Call the Forge God has come out as well. It finds a knock-up in onto Tarzan, but he's going forward when becomes lightning. Popping the Crescent Guard and separating all of TES, forcing Creme to down below 100 HP. But Creme will survive and Tarzan will not, as Hope gets headbutted straight into the enemy jungle and Shanks is forced away. AL going way too far forward into the Top Esports jungle and is going to cost them a whole lot. 3 kills for nothing for your Split 1 champions.
That is massive for Top Esports. AL clearly trying to force a fight around their level 6s that they've hit with that Galio ultimate coming in, but the problem is that the level 6s for Top Esports are just better. The Wukong, the Annie, the Ornn end up coming down for TES and they completely turn the fight. If we're talking about a team comp that already scales really well, getting 2 kills on Ornn and 1 more on Wukong, certainly scary. Tarzan just going very deep here. Kael feeling like he can capitalize on Kanavi, but the rest of the team is in the area. Creme is here to be able to counter this aggression with Hong kind of on a flank here to trap Tarzan inside with 369. This is just not a play that you can make even with the Galio ultimate coming in. And again, it's just overestimating the amount of damage that you have down here. You can't really make this mistake. Even with some well-played, I guess, ultimates used here from Tarzan, it just doesn't matter. They don't have the damage, and Top Esports clean up. Not only do they win the fight, they're going to burn resources, teleport here from, obviously, Kael, and then they're going to get the grubs as well, as we can see on the small screen.
I mean, that's a very bad sequence here for anyone's Legends, to say the least. Losing all 3 kills, giving away those grubs as well. Making sure that 369 is going to become pretty unkillable as we go throughout this game. 2-0-1 now on the Ornn. Now, Flandre was able to get a wave and stay up on the top side for long enough, but that is not enough of a consolation. And you saw there the 2 players being the leaders, the ones in the fancy outfits, the ones leading the charge for AL. in Tarzan and Kael came in, they went maybe probably a little bit too far. And you know, at least they were together on the play, but that's something that AL are going to have to work on if they want to make sure they avoid mistakes like that in the future.
This has absolutely been their problem over the course of the split, is the fact that they're just not quite all connected right now. It feels like the plays that they're going for just aren't super consistent, and we highlighted, if Tarzan is not making really positive plays for this team and pushing them forward, well, all of a sudden 2025 AL starts to look a lot closer to 2024 AL in terms of how the team ends up playing. So you need Tarzan to correctly identify when he can make those exchanges, and unfortunately here, it was not correctly identified, and it's gotten Top Esports a pretty big lead.
Yeah, over 1,000 at this point. Now, of course, we have a Senna on the other side, and so the scaling will always be there for AL. But Top Esports, again, you mentioned it, like the damage that they're going to be able to put out as we get later into this game as well could be a bit of a concern as we progress throughout this game. And we'll see if they're going to be able to take these 3 kills and put it to good use at this point. They're in a very good position right now. We have the next dragon spawning in a little bit over a minute's time, as TS would love to even up that dragon count at 1 apiece. See some more trading down at the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, that's the important thing for AL. If you can still start to get these dragons, your comp does scale very well going into the late game if you can get this Senna online. The problem is it's very difficult to imagine a world where they just outscale Top Esports. I think crucially for TES, the 2 kills actually went on to Ornn. If you can get this Ornn, enhanced on the top side, if you can get him enabled, it would be a problem. Hope a target, but is just going to flash out.
And got hope the opportunity to pick up a couple more stacks, of course, at the cost of his flash. Kanavi down here as well. We'll see how aggressively TS want to take this. It looks like Very is the answer with the Unbreakable Will available for Hong, but a nice grand entrance from Kael will knock up the Alistar, make sure that he's not able to continue to go forward, and also take down that wave in a pretty quick time span. But now he steps too far forward again, able to battle dance right back to safety. That could have been real dangerous real quick.
Yeah, that's the good part of Rakan, is you can pretty freely check any brush as long as you're not CC chained into Oblivion, but I don't expect this flash from Hope being burned is going to stay unpunished for long. I imagine that there will continuously be some pressure down onto that Senna throughout the next couple minutes. The dragon has spawned, as you called out earlier. It is that Hex Dragon, so no Hex Soul this game for either team, and with Rift Herald being so far away, over 3 minutes away, that dragon is definitely going to be the priority as we see both teams pathing to that side.
Teleport coming in as well to make sure that Shanks is there early on in the fight. As we get that same TP matched by Creme, as Top Esports going to be the one to start up the objective, but look at Tarzan. He's in base right now, so there really is no opportunity to go for any sort of contest. And that means that anyone's Legend's going to have to turn their sights elsewhere, that being potentially a couple of plates in the mid lane, so potentially a bit of mismanagement on the reset timers there, allow for Top Esports to even up this dragon count very easily, and now potentially look for a play onto the bottom lane for Shanks. On the top side, we also see 369 clearing out this wave, but the dive is going to come through onto this Galio. We'll see how much reinforcement really is there. The knockup comes through. Dawning Shadow going to keep Shanks alive for a little bit, but he's just not able to move. He finally flashes out, and Hong's not going to be able to take up enough with that Unbreakable Will. So now the target will become JackeyLove. The win becomes Lightning Connects. Nice quickness from Kael, and AL find a beautiful response mid.
It's a much smarter dive from AL, much easier to dive a Kaisa when you have damage coming in from Senna and from Xin Zhao than it is to dive a Galio when you've really only got Annie and Wukong trying to burst him down. Just definitely a difficult play to make work for Top Esports, and that's them forcing their hand a little bit too much. The lead that they had generated from a gold perspective, not necessarily there anymore. So those are the kinds of things you can't really afford to get away with if you want to be a team that continues to pressure the top of the standings. But they are still going to get this tower down on the bot side, which is obviously a lot of gold back into their pockets. Really the only thing they have to worry about right now is the Senna.
Also the full Feast of Strength going over to TES with that first tower take, as Kael and Flandre getting a little bit low down there. So the cost of that kill mid, not the dive onto Shanks, but at least getting that first tower going to be impactful, as Hong and JackeyLove going really ham onto Hope. He pops the barrier, but it will not be enough. Nicely played by TES's bottom side, making full advantage of their all-in combo.
What a ridiculous angle for JackeyLove and Hong to see a kill there onto Hope. That completely changes the complexion of the game. Really, really well played, and that's why this bot lane duo is being talked about by us and by a lot of other people as being heavily improved. And now it's Creme who's also making a play.
And Flandre is just dead. One more Incinerate's going to do the job. It's now 5-1 in favor of TES, but AL want to try to make an answer here as Tarzan is blast coned over the wall. Looking to try to take down Creme. He's nicely stunned up, though. And there's no flash of L from Tarzan, so Tibbers is going to be enough to slow him down, and AL do not find an answer.
It's a huge win, again, for top esports around the map. It's created by Hong with a fantastic engage in the mid lane that JackeyLove follows up on, and then Creme just staying active. Flandre playing way too aggressive on the bottom side of the map and getting caught out for it. Top esports, again, continuing to just be a little bit more proactive in terms of how the game is going, and it's getting them a pretty big lead.
TES, I mean, this is, so far, looking like the first place team in the league with how they have played out this early game. And yeah, you know, it's some mistakes from anyone's legend, but also really nice opportunities found, you know, by a player like Hong on the Alistar right now, one of the newest players added to this TES roster. We talk about AL being a team that has kept all 5 of their players for the entirety of the season. TES making this change, and so far having a positive impact in the regular season at the very least. Should result in them picking up this Rift Herald as well. Unless Tarzan wants to jump in here. Hong has a nice flank angle though. And so looks like TES is going to be in a good position to fight this one out.
Yeah, they are going to sacrifice pressure on the Herald here, but they definitely are in a great spot to continue this fight. Flandre is pretty separated. This Galio ultimate is going to be massive. It depends on who it ends up going down on, but the engage has to be perfect for Mael.
That Tibbers for Creme just coming off of cooldown. Perhaps waiting for that moment to strike. As the Herald is down to 3,000 HP. Hong starting things off with the headbutt pull onto Kael, but he's immediately knocked up in response. Herald is secured by anyone's legends, but look at the fight on the backside of things. It's already Tarzan going down. Flandre as well, 2-0 here for TES, and they could be looking for more. Health bars in the bottom lane are low. Shanks is about half HP. But that's all that TES is going to need to consider themselves successful on the exchange.
Yeah, they got Herald, but at what cost as Hong continues to play really aggressive? They're going to look for this tier 1 in the mid lane. I don't think they're going to be able to pick it up here, but again, it's just a complete separation for AL. Tarzan full committing to the Herald. He is going to be able to secure it, but it means that the fight is unwinnable because he's completely separated from the rest of his team. And so it is a bit of a trade there that I think is in favor of top esports. And once again, it's the proactivity of Hong and Kanavi that ends up really paying dividends for top esports as we see a bit of a replay here. Hong going to full engage onto Kael to start out this fight. Once the Tibbers is dropped, this Rakan has to be a lot more careful. And at this point, like I said, Tarzan's completely separated from the rest of his team. He's easily picked off by JackeyLove, and this is essentially a 3v4 at this point. Yeah, he didn't even get the eye. You're right. So he doesn't even get the Herald in this exchange either. That makes it even worse for anyone's legend. A greedy play that ends up not being rewarded.
And we talked about how ready top esports was to fight. They willingly gave up their positioning around the Herald because they knew they could just come right back in as soon as the ultimate was available for Creme. Damn, did that work, and then some, as the gold lead has opened up to almost 4,000. Might get to that point now, as Shanks definitely in some trouble, has to use that face rush to get on out of there. But top esports looking very good here in this game number 1. Looking to put an end to the 6-game win streak that anyone's legend have opened up for themselves over these past couple of series.
They are certainly in a good spot to do so, and I think one of the unsung heroes as to why is 369 on the top side here on this Ornn. 3-0 and 2K gold up. I mean, you're looking at Galio and Senna on the other side. Might be pretty difficult to break through this gigantic tank on the top side of the map. Top esports, even with their gold lead, it's even bigger than that because the moment those ornaments start coming in, it's going to be even more of a problem for AL. They're kind of on a timer when it comes to this game, and they're already losing pressure.
I mean, you take a look as well. Remember how far ahead Leave was in terms of these Senna stacks? Only 47 for Hope right now, not nearly in the same position, and you can see it in the impact that he has in these fights. Already Kael taking down the equalizer for Flandre, though, doing a lot. The Ornn Horn has been sounded and knocks up 3. Overall, still a 1-0, but now 369 going to be targeted. He has to flash away. Anyone's legends, they feel like this could be their angle with Kanavi and Hong very low, but they will not be able to find any other members. So it's just TES picking up both the mid lane tier 1 and another kill.
One of the greediest fights you'll see there from top esports, and they still can't get punished for it. They get the tower, they get the kill, and they get out. They lose nothing for that play. This goes to show the goal difference right now between these two teams. And honestly, the player I want to keep shouting out is Hong in the support position. This Alistar has been massive throughout this game in terms of the engages. We're going to get a replay here, but once again, it's Hong just immediately looking to set things up. It's Creme, actually, who starts the fight with the Tibbers on top of Kael. And at this point, it's Hong, it's Kanavi tanking up tower shots, and somehow, with the flash coming out from Kanavi, Hong being tanky enough, both of them are capable of escaping. 369 never really in danger because, again, of just how far ahead this Ornn is. But if you can't punish top esports there, not sure exactly where you're going to punish them.
Golden out 5K. I mean, it's very difficult for AL to continue to play this one out. It's composition that the damage is there if they're ahead, but now that Seta is not in a good position, Flandre is in a decent enough spot, but he's actually 2,000 gold down now to the likes of 369's Ornn. It seems like right now, the front line at least of TES, unkillable, might be even more unkillable with now another Mountain Dragon spawning in 3 minutes, and Soul being potentially a target for them in this game. I mean, this is very clean League of Legends being played right now by your split #1 champions.
This is why you get excited about top esports, because they have games like this against the defending champs in anyone's legend. They can just go out and be better than them. They can have better macro and better hands and better everything as they set up now around Otacon. Of course, they still have to be able to close it out, and you know, there are still questions about top esports in that regard, but this comp is perfectly set up for them to be able to play this late game. As long as they're able to play front to back, this is still going to be very scary. JackeyLove is in a great spot to deal a ton of damage in the back half here.
Yeah, I mean, 2 1-1 now with this 2 items. Basically 2 items completed across the board on the important carries for TES. Not in that position on AL's side, and that's a good sign here for top. They go for the Otacon. Right now, Flandre's still on the top side of the map. He's going to teleport here soon, or else the objective will just go down. Creme doing a great job boxing out Tarzan. Throws down the Tibbers to make it nigh impossible for Tarzan to get into the pit, but he somehow does anyway! And anyone's legend steal away the Otacon, and we'll find a massive fight. The taunt will land here by Shanks. A kill already secured onto Kanavi, and AL making something out of nothing, picking up 2 kills for themselves already, but 369 with a big knockup, but it will not matter at all. Another kill picked up here for Kael, as AL will make a miracle happen.
Oh, Graves, miracle is the perfect term because that looked impossible. There is no way that that just happened again to top esports. AL continuing to come up clutch in the biggest of moments. Tarzan gets completely chunked up for his entire health bar and yet still makes it in to steal away the Otacon. That's not just an Otacon. That's not just a fight win. It's gold on some priority targets, and all of a sudden, that big lead top esports had generated, while it's still a little bit there, is mostly entirely evaporated, as we are going to see this in the replay. Tarzan chunked out entirely before this fight. Flandre super late on the teleport. The Ornn comes out, but it can't lock up Tarzan. He ends up flashing over the wall to avoid the Ornn ult and just gets the smite off on the 50-50 to be able to pick it up. At this point, with the Otacon buff, top esports are so low, and Kanavi's really not able to play the fight at all. Him and Hong, while they've been so good as engagers when they have to play on the defensive, it's not going to be nearly as efficient in terms of how this comp operates, and they have plenty of damage to finally break through 369 here. The game has gone from being close to unwinnable for AL to being in a decently even spot, all things considered.
And as soon as we were just starting to crown this moment for TES, AL, they say not so quickly, as they, like they have been doubted for a good portion of the season, now still putting themselves in a position to contest this game. Remember, they were down almost 10,000 gold to BLG in that game 3 just last week, and they were still able to win that one. We'll see if that continues to be the case, and their comebacks still remain true. They will lose this second Mountain Dragon, though. Look at the cost of mid-prio. Looks like AL still looking for a fight. Hope chunked down to half HP. The Call of Force God will land on top of him. Equalizer still doing a lot as Flandre is now overheated. And the Dawning Shadow will take down Kanavi. Hope claiming a kill. Kael with a 2-man knockup, and Hong finds the knockup in response. Searing Charge will land on a Hope. And in comes JackeyLove with the Killer Instinct, but he's going to get knocked out by Tarzan, who's still alive. Flandre cooking him in the river. And it's another one team fight for anyone's legend.
Grapes, we are seeing the comeback that we never thought we would get. Shanks chasing down Creme here. I don't believe he's going to be able to catch up to him, but somehow, some way, AL have a gold lead at 24 minutes here. It's a fight that once again looks very good for Top Esports, but Kanavi gets chunked out right at the start. It feels like maybe they can turn it with JackeyLove damage, but they're able to focus enough on the Kaisa to pick up the fight win. Again, we're going to get a replay of how this starts. I like this positioning from TES. Kanavi full engages on top of Hope and Kael, but really all it comes down to is Kael's beautiful peel to keep Kanavi off of his AD carry. Doesn't even get hit with the second proc of the Cyclone, and once Kanavi is down, they have no more engage. Tarzan's actually in a pretty decent position to zone out a lot of the damage dealers for a lot of this fight, and even when JackeyLove ends up going in, here is the Xinjiao and the Galio to completely shut down what Kaisa can do. The taunt comes in, the fight is over, and AL are in full control of this game.
And a massive fight from Flandre as well, I will say. The equalizer to start things off. He went through 2 cycles of overheating in that singular team fight. He initially had that extra auto attack power, you know, and then he fully cycled through his heat again, which is a little bit harder than even in the past. Now that, you know, the heat does 150 heat on Rumble, and you can see an LPL gold graph starting to form. Pop that emoji in the chat right now if you are able to do so. This is a pretty standard game, I guess, at this point. Business as usual for anyone's legend.
Yeah, somehow, some way, this is their comfort zone in terms of just how it's going so far. I don't even think they feel all that uncomfortable with how the game is rocking, but it's not over by any stretch. All AL has done is get themselves back into the game. Top Esports are still in a pretty decent position. I still think they scale very, very well, and Ornn is still in a very strong spot to start using those ornaments to level the rest of Top Esports up. This Baron has spawned on the top side of the map, with Dragon not being an objective just yet for that soul for Top Esports. Top side of the map is likely going to be where the pressure is.
Now, one area that AL is still lagging behind a little bit in is Hope on the Senna. Now, let's be clear, he's had some very well-played team fights, but the soul stacking not quite there just yet. 83 at the 25-minute mark. Again, according to Slayer, our resident AD carry player here on the LPL stream, alongside Mizel. You're looking for 100 by 25 minutes. That's not necessarily the case for him right now. As 369 going for an aggressive play on the Flandre, matched up by JackeyLove, beautifully executed as they take down the Rumble early on. It's going to be matched by a teleport from Shanks, but not enough follow-up with a TP coming in from Creme as well. But a numbers advantage now exists in the mid lane here for anyone's legend. They're going to try to use it to take down Kanavi. Kael with a beautiful knockup. Kanavi using that second proc in the Cyclone, healing up a little bit with the Thunder Sky. But Tarzan will take him down, making it a 1-for-1 across the map.
It's a 1-for-1, but it's jungle down for Top Esports, and Baron is on the map. They could very easily try and pressure this. It looks like they are going to. Tarzan is going to hit the Baron at the very least. Looks like they are going to start this up. No jungle, no smite available for Top Esports.
I don't know how much damage they have with just the Senna helping Tarzan out at this point. JackeyLove just went back to base and picked up a Terminus. He's going to be very powerful in an extended 4v4 team fight, which is exactly what Top Esports are looking for. Shanks has been separated, but now it's Tarzan dashing forward on the 369. Gets knocked up by the Searing Charge. Going to be in a lot of trouble before he pops a Crescent Guard. And JackeyLove still very much untouched on his Kaisa, but Flandre comes in with the teleport to try to rip apart Top Esports, but they've already taken down 2 members. And AL bit off a little bit more than they could chew around the Baron, and it's going to cost them Tarzan's life with Kanavi coming right back from base.
Did the script just get flipped? I'm pretty sure now I see one jungler dead on the side of AL, and Top Esports is now the one pressuring Baron, and honestly, they're in a position to be able to take this, all 5 members up. It's a big, big mistake from AL. The overstay ends up costing them so much, the lives of 2 of their members, and the Baron going over to Top Esports. Dragon is spawning in 20 seconds. That's Mountain Soul for TES.
Not so quickly, Top Esports says, as they claim the Baron. Agree with you, K-Man. No chance for AL to finish this Baron, and JackeyLove doing a lot of damage in this team fight.
Yeah, I mean, he's completely untouched for a majority of this. Even if his damage is being blocked by Tarzan, he just can't get enough damage off to actually make it worthwhile. Kael goes in to try to knock up JackeyLove, but he dies before he can get any of the CC off. It's just a bad setup from AL, and they're punished for it.
Now Dragon's available still. This would be a Mountain Soul for Top Esports, for 369 and Hong on the beefy boy duo in the front line. So anyone's legend want to make sure that does not happen. But Top Esports going to be the ones to get inner workings onto the Dragon Pit. You see the wave position, not great for your defending champions right now, but they're going to have to go for a play soon. Creme has Flash, has his tippers available. Look for him to be the go button for Top Esports unless AL have something to say about it.
Yeah, Creme is in a great spot here. The Ornhorn can also be channeled. It's going to be massive to see exactly who that lands on these close quarters fights. Favor both teams. It's all about execution here.
Call the Forge God comes out, finds a knock-up onto Hope, already at half HP, but the hero's entrance comes out. Kael's instantly deleted. That's the first kill, and Kanavi goes to the backline with a Cyclone, not able to take down Hope though. Hope's still alive until JackeyLove comes forward. He has himself a quadra kill.
It's a quadra kill for JackeyLove, and they don't care about this soul. They don't care about this dragon. They want the Nexus with the Baron buff that they acquired, a game that was living on the knife's edge throughout all 30 minutes of its lifespan is snuffed out in one fell swoop as Top Esports push into the base with their advantage and take game number 1.
We thought AL was going to mount another miraculous comeback, but TES throw the Uno reverse card right back at him. Only Kael remains, and he might be fodder for more KDA padding. Not going to be the case, though. They care just about the Nexus, and Top Esports will go up 1-0 on the series.
You know, Grapes, it's the result we thought we were going to get at 15 minutes, just maybe a bit of a roller coaster on how we ended up getting there. What a crazy game number 1. Both teams showing both the best and worst parts of themselves in terms of their execution, but Top Esports with just enough damage and just enough CC to be able to make it theirs at the end of the game.
The objective setups for Anyone's Legend have typically been something that we've praised them for. Obviously, have worked out for them to be able to, win that fight, to allow them to even start up the Baron, to allow for this the game to seemingly be turned around a little bit. But Top Esports were able to really punish a really greedy start of that Baron Nashor by AL, and it snowballed into that dragon fight, resulted in JackeyLove just really becoming unlocked. I mean, we talk about the pressure that Lee was able to have on that Senna in game number 2 of our last series. Hope did not have any of that on this pick and really was taken advantage of by another signature performance by JackeyLove on his Kai'Sa.
I think the massive difference between that last series and this one with this Senna is just the composition that they're going into. This is a much more difficult game for Senna to play out. The range advantage was, absolutely massive for Senna previously, and that's kind of the big, positive of the champ is just how easy it is to play these team fights. When you have so many dive tools and so many CC tools on the side of Top Esports, it's really easy for them to be able to counter the positioning that comes out from Hope, and unfortunately just wasn't able to have that same kind of impact, and JackeyLove really comes up clutch with a quadra kill at the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean, had a great fight beforehand as well around the Baron, so if I had to give an MVP, might go towards him, although Hong had a great game on the Alistar as well. You have to give him credit for that. Really setting up JackeyLove throughout the early game, even though it was Jackie that did a lot in those final deciding moments.
Yeah, I think Hong is definitely somebody that I'm looking towards. You can't count 369 out either. I think he had a tremendous game on the Ornn. The Call of the Forge God at the end there in that final team fight was massive. It ended up landing on 3, and it really ended up kind of turning the fight. We looked for the Tibbers to be the engage, but it was 369 who was kind of the primary, engage for a lot of this team and was the one to kind of generate their lead. So I think there's plenty of great options for player of the game, and isn't that what we want? We want all of Top Esports to look good.
Yeah, because when they're working as 5, I mean, we talk about Anyone's Legend when Tarzan is working and everything, how they look like just like such a well-rounded team. I feel like you can say the same for Top Esports, especially with how Hong has been playing as of late. Remember, Kanavi, split 1 MVP. Tarzan's been playing great recently, but it was Kanavi that was seemingly the best jungler in the league for a large portion of the season. And when you look at TES, they really underperformed at first stand on the international stage. Clearly, it means a lot for them to want to come back there and prove that it was just a fluke and that they can really give some pride and give some glory back to the LPL once again. And if they keep up the way that they've been playing, obviously, sans a couple of those little throws around some objectives and taking some bad fights. That's what still needs to be cleaned up. But overall, I mean, it's been a great season so far for TES, and you got to just hope that they're able to keep it up.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, right? Like, again, the reason we talked about AL being so dangerous is because we said at their best, they're the best team in the LPL. That might not even be true. The best version of Top Esports might be the best team in the LPL. They're going to get the chance to prove that even more here today, but they're first in the standings for a reason. This team just continues the role that they've been on.
It's been really fun to see. As on Anyone's Legend side, though, again, this is their... They were on a bit of a heater. They won 6 straight maps after that first game loss to BLG. Obviously, a very tough opponent that they're up against in Top Esports, but it felt like a lot of the disadvantages that they were facing were on the self-inflicted end of things, and that's something that's going to have to continue to be cleaned up, both in the series, but also as they close out the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, you have to clean up those decision-making mistakes because it wasn't just one, it was multiple. They ended up, you know, really being able to bounce back, but let's not forget why they got into a gigantic deficit in the first place. They're fighting around blue buff with Kael and Tarzan, you know, diving super far in and just giving 3 free kills to top esports at the start of the game. Of course, people are going to remember the bad Baron take, but it wasn't one bad play for AL, it was multiple, and they were able to capitalize and still be able to pull the game back because of their execution and because of that steal on the Otacon. But when so many things have to go right for you in a game for you to even be in it, you know, perhaps there's a lot you need to kind of clean up and fix, and I think that's what I want to see out of AL in Game 2. I'm not counting them out of this series by any stretch, but definitely some things that I think need to be adjusted for them.
Take a look at some of those highlights there. Again, want to shout out Flandre for just the amount of work he was able to do in some of these team fights as well, despite being put relatively far behind at the start of the game, just based off of certain circumstances. The team fights for TES overall, when they found really good setups, were good. I mean, we talked about in the draft how many different options JackeyLove had to use the killer instinct to get in. It felt like that was on full display, especially towards some of the back half of this game.
Yeah, I mean, there were times where it felt difficult for the Kaisa to play, but for the most part, I think the frontliners for top esports were so consistent at being able to set things up. And unfortunately for BLG, as I stated before, like, their setups were very not clean in this game. Like, they were not consistent in terms of the way that they wanted to make these fights happen. Even this big fight win, which was a win for AL, you know, this is a fight that I think, you know, 5 times out of 10 could go the way of top esports if some things just go a little bit differently. So, you know, it's all really just about making sure that those setups continue to be consistent. But again, the frontliners, the engagers from top esports, that's who really made the difference here today. And JackeyLove really reaped the rewards. But really, I mean, he played well in that same vein. It's everybody that deserves a big, you know, a round of applause, especially for the way that they played the 5v5s.
Yeah, I mean, they overall had a couple of mistakes around the Otacon. I mean, sometimes Tarzan's just able to, you know, turn into that next gear, I guess, seemingly, and steal that one away. But again, this was a really awkward moment for AL. Seemingly thought that they could take down the Dragon just, you know, just by taking down Kanavi, or the Baron, but just did not end up being the case. And again, really nice go buttons here for Hong. I mean, he's found that initial engage onto Kael. Sometimes it's not the backline carries that you have to initially take down. He found a lot of really nice headbutt pulls onto Kael and, you know, onto players like Flandre and Tarzan. And that just stopped the initial engage and actually helped top esports a lot.